While we all love the awesome scale and spectacle of our Halos and our Forza Horizons, Xbox is also home to an amazing array of indie games. What they lack in file size, they make up for in ingenuity, imagination, and sometimes just straight up weirdness. Best of all, a whole bunch of them are now available at a tidy discount thanks to this week's Indie Hit sale. If you fancy playing as a shark, alien, a truck driver, an alien, luchador, or perhaps another alien, then this is a sale for you. But where to start?
Last year gave us several day one Game Pass drops like Back 4 Blood and Halo Infinite, but did Master Chief wield an electric guitar to fight bad guys? Unless we missed something, I'm pretty sure he didn't. The Artful Escape, however, not only features a hero wielding a glimmering axe, but also went straight onto Game Pass last year. And it's also easily one of the prettiest that did so, with a psychedelic, colour-swirling art style that will beguile your brain, especially if you're playing it in 4K on the Xbox Series X. In this hypnotic side-scroller, you start out as a young musician named Francis Vendetti, looking to follow in the steps of his folk legend uncle. But musically speaking, this land isn't your land, so you set out on a mystical, mind-bending adventure in search of a melody that you can really get your groove with. Along the way, you'll get to jam with space gods and intergalactic rock stars with voices provided by Hollywood's big shots like Predator's Carl Weathers, Game of Thrones' Lena Headey, and a bloke that seems to have been in every single indie film, Jason Schwartzman. So it's a journey to the stars in more ways than one, I suppose you could say. So regardless of whether you take advantage of this week's 25% discount or go and grab it on Game Pass, The Artful Escape has a unique sound that truly deserves the biggest stage available. Rock on, folks!
Another absolute gem of an indie game you'll find on Xbox Game Pass is Spiritfarer. This soothing management sim sees you take over from Sharon as the person in charge of getting souls from our world into the next. It's a pretty sweet gig, giving you the chance to travel and meet all sorts of interesting people, from a lonely little owl to a shark who trades in ship parts and bad jokes. Maybe people was the wrong word there. Each character has their own likes, dislikes, and unfinished bits of business that you'll need to juggle if you want to see them safely on their journey to the afterlife. But if the workload gets too much for you, you can always tag in a friend and play couch co-op with. Now that Spiritfarer is 50%, this could be a great time to spend a little cash and check it out. After all, you can't take it with you.
If you're longing for the days of cartoon platformers, or you're just a really big fan of enchanted headwear, A Hat in Time might just be the game for you, you know, especially now that it's half price. Hat Kid, as they're called, is happily minding her own business, travelling about in her spaceship, and wearing a top hat like any other regular child would, when a sudden catastrophe leaves her precious timepieces scattered all over a nearby world. God, isn't it dreadful when that happens? It's not a great situation, sure, but it is a great excuse for an adventure, taking you to all sorts of bizarre and hilarious places. From forests filled with spooky shadows to a train-based mystery that would put Agatha Christie to shame, A Hat in Time manages to perfectly recapture the madcap, freewheeling spirit that made classic 3D platformers so unpredictably delightful. Plus, if it's half off, you can use that hard-earned cash elsewhere. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some plans.
Sure, we've had one game centered around intergalactic music, but what's one more, eh? Because Toejam and Earl Back in the Groove brought its two iconic aliens back into our orbit, just as we were beginning to fear they would never phone home again. In Back in the Groove, our two extroverted extraterrestrials have crash-landed on Earth and need to find the pieces of their broken ship if they ever want to get off this strange blue ball we call home. What follows is an isometric adventure with a dash of roguelike fun, and one that you can play either solo or in co-op if you've got a gaming buddy who really is the Toejam to your Earl. Which sounds pretty gross saying it out loud, but it was supposed to be cute, I swear. Perhaps most importantly though, it features one of the funkiest soundtracks ever to grace a video game. If this month's Super Bowl show got you jonesing for some 90s hip-hop vibes, Toejam and Earl Back in the Groove should definitely be your next stop, especially now that it's 85% off.
Dripping with noirish mystique and otherworldly atmosphere, Kentucky Route Zero is a point-and-click adventure quite like no other. Playing as a truck driver named Conway, you're making your way up to the Interstate 65 to deliver an antique. And while you'll have to do some light detective work to figure out the address and see the job through, you won't encounter much in the way of traditional puzzles or brain-busting challenges here. This long and winding trip is all about the journey and the people you're going to meet along the way. Out on the road at night, you'll bump up against installation artists and inspiring miners, motorbike riding musicians, and a boy called Ezra who claims his brother is a giant eagle. Each one will draw you off on a detour from your intended path, allowing your story to warp off in the most odd of directions. You'll never quite know what you're going to end up with, but it's always worth finding out, and at 40% off, Kentucky Route Zero is definitely a journey worth taking.
Okay guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, we've got to be really careful here if we don't want a lawsuit. So Nexomin is a game where you go around capturing monsters, some of which are very small, pocket-sized you might say. Be very tempting to try and catch a lot of them, perhaps even them all. Alright, let's drop the pretense. Nexomin is a great game because it knows exactly how to crib from the very best in the monster battling genre, resulting in exactly the sort of colourful, character-filled mon-on-mon action that we've been crazy for since the 90s. And now that it's been optimised for the Xbox Series X and S, it could just be the prettiest monster catching adventure in town. Plus, it's 25% off.
Viral video game sensation Among Us has also had a whopping 25% hacked off its price tag, though if you're not careful, the hacking might not end there. The original premise was so sinister in its simplicity, it's no wonder the entire world fell in love with it and started saying sus all the time. You and the other primary coloured players waddle around a spaceship performing very important maintenance tasks, except well, one of you is actually a murderous imposter trying to kill you all. Bodies pile up and suspicions rise, and pretty soon nobody trusts anybody and you're all very tired. You know the game by now. These bloody basics have been since expanded on with more maps, a variety of other roles, and a fabulous collection of hats if you're interested. And now you'll even find it on Xbox Game Pass as well as PC Game Pass. So you should never be short on crewmates to, well, let's say disembowel.
Outer Wilds is another space-based adventure involving odd little alien folk. Although this one isn't quite as funky as Toejam and Earl, or as gleefully homicidal as Among Us. Instead, Outer Wilds is a much quieter, more introspective wander across the stars. Although admittedly, it's a quiet, introspective wander that ends with you being obliterated by an exploding sun. Before you type in the comment section, that's not a spoiler by the way, that is the point of the whole thing. The game takes place inside a 22-minute time loop ending with the aforementioned supernova. In that brief window, you're free to explore the solar system around you, learning more about those who came before and perhaps even discovering the source of your temporal anomaly. The Archaeologist Edition, which is now 35% off, also bundles in the Echoes of the Eye expansion, bringing a bizarre spaceship full of odd, owl-like creatures into the mix. And if there's a game that can't be improved by surprise owl aliens, I have yet to encounter it. Suggestions welcome in the comments below though.
Coming from deep space, we're now crashing into the deep blue sea with Maneater Apex Edition bundle being 40% off as well. After a hunter kills your mother, you're left orphaned and alone, a poor shark baby with no one to care for them. Fortunately, there are more fish in the sea. Fish you can eat, gradually making you bigger and stronger until you're ready to take your toothy revenge out on that dastardly mother hunter. Kinda like how Bambi truly should have ended. The Apex edition of the game also includes some very tasty DLC features that allow you to become an even more fearsome predator, including atomic evolutions that turn you into a kind of radioactive menace that even Godzilla himself would steer clear of. With a next-gen update that adds 4K, 60 frames per second, and ray tracing, being a prehistoric monster has never looked so good.
By this point, you're probably pretty used to the idea of a multiverse, but how about a Mexiverse? The follow-up to 2013's acclaimed Mexican-style Metroidvania, Guacamelee 2, has you taking charge of legendary luchador Juan Aguacate, once again as he hops from one dimension to the next in pursuit of a mysterious villain named Salvador. There's even a darkest timeline where events have turned out in the most awful fashion imaginable, although I can't confirm whether everyone there has grown out a goatee like in Community because many of them wear luchador masks, but I bet they have. Regardless, Guacamelee 2 is a candy-colored dream of a game, a veritable video gaming piñata, just waiting for you to bust it open and feast on all the delicious treats inside. Best of all, it even adds co-op so that you can tag in up to 3 friends to help you suplex space-time into submission and keep the Mexiverse together. All that and it's now 60% off into the bargain as well.
So whether you're into folk music adventures, funk-loving aliens, or fairies full of forlorn souls, this week's Indie Hit sale has the perfect little game in there for you. Sound off about your favourite indie titles down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for all the latest news on Xbox games, big and small, in the weeks to come. Bye bye!